Oh my god, there's so many of these. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I'm going to take you through every single book that's on my physical TBR. That isn't even going to mention what books I have yet to read on my Kindle or that I've received from NetGalley. It's just every single book that's in either of the shelves on my house. And there are quite a lot. I don't know how many exactly, but I have counted the books that are left over and there are only 16. And I own quite a lot of books. You're going to notice a pattern here because I tend to sort my books by color of the cover. So that's kind of the pattern that it's going to keep throughout the video. If there's one that you've read and that you have really, really loved, please make a case for it in the comments below because I really need to clear out a couple of these books during this corona crisis thing. Let's get started. I've mentioned this book in a couple of TBR videos, which means that you think I would have read it by now. But yeah, here it is. It's still on my TBR. It is Queen of Conan Whispers by Helen Corcoran. Helen is a debut author. This is a fantasy FF romance. I always get the names of these mixed up, so I'm going to try and get it right this time. It follows Leah, who is the queen, and Zania, who is a bodyguard. And she is hired to protect Leah, who has taken over the kingdom from her uncle. And they fall in love. And that's kind of all I know about it. When idealistic teenage Queen Leah inherits her corrupt uncle's bankrupt kingdom, she brings a new spy master into the fold, Zania, who takes the job to avenge her murdered father. As the two grow closer, they're quick to learn that all isn't fair in love and treason. They must decide not only what to sacrifice for duty, but also for each other. I'm really hype about this book because I know a lot of people have loved it, but fantasy is not always my favorite genre. So I am a little bit, not concerned, just slightly held back about reading this one. So if you have read it before and if you have really, really loved it, please make a case for it because I know once I start picking it up, I'm going to really love it, but I just need that little bit of a spur. I also still have on my TBR, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Chanel Miller is the girl at the center of the Brock Turner rape trial where he was let go after 6 months having dragged a girl into a back alley and having raped her at college. And this book has gotten so many rave reviews on Goodreads, on Instagram, on Twitter. Anybody that I've seen have talked about it and they've really, really loved it. But I have a feeling that this is going to be really, really hard reading and that it's really going to take me a while to kind of get into it. And when I start getting into it, I know that I'm going to really love it. And I have read the letter that she wrote and published a couple of months ago. I think it was sometime last year. And I really loved it. So I know that when I read this, I'm going to really enjoy it. It's just, I'm held back a little bit because I know it's going to be such a hard book to get into. I have lips now, that's better. The next book on my TBR is Lying in Wait by Liz Nugent. Liz Nugent is one of Ireland's best thriller writers. I have read 2 of hers. I have read Skin Deep. I just read it. What is it called? Our Little Cruelties. I've read Skin Deep and I've read Our Little Cruelties. These were both published after Lying in Wait and I've loved both of them. I have a feeling as well that my dad's going to really love this because he's a really big thriller reader. So I think once I have finished this up, I'm going to bring it back to my dad's house and he's going to really enjoy it too. I just need to get around to it. This has been on my TBR for so long that a subsequent book in this series has come out. It's on this year's YA 10 list and I still haven't read it. I think I got this as a gift from my friend Rachel, who's Sectum Sempra on Twitter. I must have gotten this about 3 or 4 years ago. Let me check the publication date. 2017. So I got this at least 2 or 3 years ago and I still haven't read it. Again, it's a sci-fi fantasy book and that's not really a genre that I love, but something has kind of spurred me on to keep this on my TBR. So if you have read this, tell me what it's like. I read Wing Jones by Catherine Weber and I loved it. But I still haven't gotten around to Only Love Can Break Your Heart. And I don't know why. Because it's a book that I know I'm going to really enjoy, but I still haven't gotten around to it. I need to learn what these books are actually about before I start talking about them. I was going to do a buddy read of Rose Interrupted by Patrice Lawrence with Rachel, who I've spoken about already in this video. And we still haven't sorted out a date because the last time I talked to her, she didn't have a copy of this yet. This is a copy that I was actually sent by the publisher. I think this was published last July. Still haven't read it. Still waiting for a buddy read to get around to it. Or maybe I should just read it by myself. This is Girlhood by Kat Clark. This would be my first ever Kat Clark book. I have not read any of her others. I think she's got 6 out at the moment. And I don't know why I haven't read this one yet, because it sounds like it would be really interesting just from the blurb in the background, which I believe is a piece from the book. I lost myself when my sister died, and these girls rebuilt me piece by piece. I thought that nothing could ever come between us. I thought I knew who I was until the new girls showed up. That sounds really interesting. Make your case for it, because I'm actually starting to really like this book, and I'm going to really jump it up my TBR right now. I was also sent Things We Didn't Talk About When I Was a Girl by the publisher. This was published last year in September by Duckworth. I've read a couple of other books of those on blog tours, and I feel like this is, again, like Know Your Name by Chanel Miller, I feel like this is a really difficult topic to deal with, and I feel like it's going to be a really difficult topic to talk about because the woman in this book, Vanessa, has been raped. And I find stories about rape really difficult to read, and they can be quite visceral at times. So I feel like this is a story that I really need to be in the right mindset before I can actually start reading it. The next 2 books on my TBR are in a series. Babysitters Club time! I have the majority of the Babysitters Club series, just the straight series, on my Kindle. I was sent them by Sharon Levy. But these 2 are they specials? Yeah, they're specials, which are like, I think 12 books that are outside of the main babysitting area. So one of them is set in New York, one of them is set in California, which means, from my powers of deduction, one of them is going to be following Stacey and one of them is going to be following Dawn. Those are 2 of my favorite characters from the set of 7 babysitters. But I feel like I need to read through all of the Babysitters Club books again before I can start working on the specials. You remember I talked about this in a video before? Still on my TBR, still haven't read it. Really love Adam Silvera's books. Really, really love Becky Albert Ali, but I haven't picked this one up yet, and I don't know why. Just tell me to pick it up and I'll read it. Tell me to read it. Tell me why I should read it. White Rabbit, Red Fox is a book that was on the YA 10 in 2018. It was definitely not in 2019. And a friend of mine read it, and she really enjoyed it, and I haven't read it, so I can't discuss it with her yet. That's a really good way to run a book club. My book club here did a kind of a blind book swap over Christmas where you just wrapped up a book and picked one out of the table, and that was a book Christmas present for you. And this is the one that I got. It's The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. It's about the Queen, and she likes reading. And she sets up a book club in Buckingham Palace. I'm not sure. It has something to do with the Queen and reading and books, and I think I would really enjoy it. And when I unwrapped it, I thought I would really, really get into it. But yeah, still haven't read it yet because who knows why. Whenever I go on a holiday or I go to a new place, I always buy 2 things. A fridge magnet and a book. And these are the 2 books that I bought while I was in Paris. This one was a little bit of a joke buy, but a serious buy at the same time, just because it had Paris in the name and it was in a Paris bookshop. I don't think I need to tell you what Paris bookshop I was in. But this one was another more serious one. It is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. I feel like, again, that's going to be a really serious topic for me to read. I do like nonfiction. I have been starting to read a lot more nonfiction in the last couple of months. I need to be ready for this book. And I don't think right now is the time. I think I need to, cleanse my palette a little bit more with some fiction that reads before I start reading something a little bit more hard-hitting. That's not saying I'm never going to read it, though. That sounds bad. I read If I Were Your Girl by Meredith Rousseau when it came out, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I went out and bought Birthday, and then I heard that Meredith Rousseau has had a couple of issues, scandals, if you want to say. So I'm not entirely sure if this is the right author to read. It's a prompt on my 2020 reading challenge. I have to read a book by a trans or non-binary author, so this would fit into it. But I'm still a little bit concerned as to separating the art from the artist, if you know what I mean. I borrowed Feminist Fight Club by Jessica Bennett from a friend of mine who has since moved back to Denmark, left this book behind, and I still haven't read it. So I think what I gotta do is, when this whole thing is over, book another trip to Denmark, read the book, give her the book back, get a new book. I was sent this book, which is The Things We Thought We Knew by the publisher. What is the author's name? It is Marshuda Snaith. I can say that. I was sent this book by the publisher last year, maybe the year before, and the cover is beautiful. The book itself sounds amazing, but it's still sitting around on my TBR because I genuinely don't even know why. I try to read as many books as come in from publishers. I try to really keep on top of that, but this one just sailed right past me and I still have no idea why. So if you have read this book, please tell me that it's a really good one. Tell me why I should read it. My first Vary McFarlane book last year was Don't You Forget About Me, and I spent the entire time thinking about Simple Minds, but I really enjoyed the book and I want to read a lot more of her. I've got 2 books of hers on my physical TBR and I got 1 on my Kindle. And the first book on my physical TBR is Who's That Girl, which I actually bought before having read Don't You Forget About Me because timelines make no sense anymore. I think this was another holiday buy. I think I bought this one when I was in Bratislava last year. I think it might just be time to start reading it now. The next 2 books are kind of similar veins, so I'm going to show them at the same time. It's Angie Thomas's On the Come Up and Internment by Samira Ahmed. I've read the debut books of both of these authors and I've really enjoyed them. So I don't know why I haven't read them yet. I bought this one while I was in Berlin. I don't remember where I bought this one. I think I just got it on Amazon or in my local bookshop. But I really need to let that out of my mind and just read them. I think the problem is that I've loved both of their debuts so much. THUG was one of my top books of 2017, for sure. I also really loved Love, Hate and Other Filters. So I am worried. And I think that this book is a little bit more charged because it is happening right now. It's about an internment camp in the USA, and that is happening at the moment. I think it's going to be a really difficult book to read. It's going to be a really tough story, but it is definitely one that I need to get around to. And that's 1 pile done. There's still 3 to go. A book that I might get to for my owls, so I probably will have read it by the time this video comes out, is Milkman by Anna Burns. And I also realised recently that Anna Burns is an Irish author, and that has made me a little bit more spurred on to start reading this book. It's also a prize winner. It's a winner of the Mandarika Prize in 2018, but I know that this can be quite a divisive book. I've read the Goodreads reviews, not like reading them thoroughly, but just checking out what the stars were like. There's some of them that are giving her a straight 5, and there's some of them that are giving her a 2. And when I see that kind of, I don't want to say it puts me off a little bit, but it does make me a little bit more nervous about reading the book. I have to get around to it. I do have to get around to it eventually, but the question is going to be, what camp am I going to set myself up in? I am a member of the Ricochet Book Club on Facebook. There are 30,000 people, and one of the most talked about books at the moment is Julia Owen's Where the Crawdads Sing. You cannot escape that book in that club. Anybody that has mentioned it, loved it. Some people that have mentioned it haven't really loved it as much, but it is everywhere, and I really feel like I'm missing out on it from not having read it. This definitely needs to be picked up now. I definitely need to get around to this. You don't generally see a lot of books that have autism rep in them, but I really enjoyed The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. And then I picked up The Bright Test, also by Helen Huang. This is her 2nd book. I think she's got a 3rd book coming out sometime this year, but I am really looking forward to reading this. I think this one follows Kai, who is Michael's cousin. Michael from the first book, that's his cousin. They work together in the laundrette or the dry cleaners, the laundrette, or the sewing place. I can't remember which of those 3 that he works in. So a woman called Esme moves over from Ho Chi Minh City and she moves to the USA and she starts dating Kai, and it's basically a continuation of their relationship. I really enjoyed The Kiss Quotient. I thought it was a little bit smutty for my tastes, but I have got some really high expectations for The Bright Test. This has been on my TBR since mid last year. I think this is when it came out. I bought it quite soon after it came out. I think I bought it when I was on holiday again. It came out in 2019. I think I bought it again while I was on holiday, but I don't remember the place. I do. I bought it while I was in Portsmouth, and what really drew to me was the cover. And then I realized that the author was Irish, and then I realized that it's kind of got an FF representation. If you've read this book, please tell me that there is more substance to it than just the cover, because I know that there's going to be, but I need to hear why it's such a good book. Black Flamingo by Dean Atta is on the YA 10 book list this year, and I'm going to be trying to read as many of the YA 10 books as I can before the winner is announced in God knows when. It's actually written in the form of poems. This is just a random page. I have no idea what it's saying. I haven't read a whole lot of poetry formatted books. The only ones that I have read really are the ones by Sarah Crossan, who is also a YA prize winner. She won in 2016 with One, which is a really powerful book. I have a feeling that when it's a poetry book, you can get through it a little bit quicker, but you engage with the story a little bit more differently. Maybe that's going to be the same story here, but this is such a pretty cover. I am super hype about this book already. During the lockdown, some people shared their Amazon wish lists on Twitter, and I did the same. I wasn't expecting to get anything, but I got 2 books, and this is the first one of them. I got Geek Arella by Ashley Poston. This is a Cinderella retelling. I think it's the first in a series, and there is 2 more for sure. There's the Cinderella one. I think the one that is coming out this year is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I don't remember what the second one is. I think it could be maybe Sleeping Beauty or something. I really like retellings, and I like the idea that this is a more contemporary form retelling, because the last couple of retellings that I've read have actually been more fantasy based. For example, I recently read Of Curses and Kisses by Sandia Menon, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, so you think I would really enjoy it, but it's a little bit more of a fantasy-based retelling than a contemporary in my eyes. So that did kind of hamper it a little bit for me. However, this is a much more contemporary retelling style, and I'm really, really into reading it. Plus, it had been on my Amazon wishlist for years, so it's good to clear that one out at least. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson is another book that's on the YA 10 list this year, and it is everywhere. Everyone is talking about how good it is. It's a kind of a thriller where a girl comes to solve a murder that has happened in her town for a school project, and then she finds out more about the murder than has already been previously discovered. She discovers secrets that somebody in the town desperately wants to keep hidden. I love drama. Read the damn book. Okay, don't ask me how it happened, because I still don't know, but the company that I worked for 2 years ago took us all to Vegas for a week. And on the way to Las Vegas, I was reading One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus on the plane over. Then I finished it while we were there, and my friend who was sitting beside me, and she was staying in the same room as me, she was asking me what I was reading. I told her what it was, I gave her my Kindle, she fell in love with it. And then the sequel came out, One of Us is Next. I am really hyped to read this book, but I have kind of forgotten a couple of the minor intricate details of One of Us is Lying. I do remember the reveal at the end. I'm not going to talk about it in case somebody here hasn't read the book, but there are little bits of intricacies that I have forgotten from the first book. When a sequel comes out, I always try and read the first book again just to kind of refresh my memory, but I haven't reread One of Us is Lying yet. When I get around to that, this book is going to be the next in line. Talking again about my book club here. We had already decided on our book for March, but we haven't actually met to discuss it yet because the lockdown happened. And the book was Middle England by Jonathan Coe. And I feel like this is a kind of a Brexit analogy. And I definitely have got to read this book when everything was shut down, when the bookshops were shut down, and when we decided that we weren't going to be meeting this month, I kind of pushed it back on my TBR. Don't tell the book club. Which I say in a video that I'm going to be publishing, and they probably will watch, but don't tell them anyway. The second Barry McFarlane book has arrived. It's Here's Looking at You. I always get this one confused with You Had Me at Hello for absolutely zero reason, because I have a feeling that they're 2 totally different books. I am kind of planning to read all of my Barry McFarlane books together in one really big chunk and do a reading vlog of how I'm feeling about them. If that's something that you would want to see, please tell me. I think this and Who's That Girl and the other books that are on my Kindle are gonna have to wait around until I have a stretch of time long enough to read those. For example, right now I'm in the middle of the Owls Readathon, so maybe like June or July is the perfect time to get that out of the way. All of my friends know that I'm a bookworm. It's really obvious. And sometimes they will give me books, and this is one of them. It's Sally Rooney's Normal People. And I got this from my friend back in January, just before she moved to the Netherlands. And yeah, it's still in my house and it's still on my TBR. So I picked up We Are Not Okay by Natalie Gomez in, I believe, Amsterdam. It's another book that I got while I was on travels. Really liked the cover. I really liked the idea of it. And then proceeded to not read it for over a year. That's going to be like a common theme in this, by the way. It's going to be a common theme that I just pick up books and never read them. Such as Letters to the Lost by Bridget Kemmerer. I already read Call It What You Want. It's another one of her contemporaries. And I have a feeling that I'm going to get on with her contemporaries a lot better than I would with her fantasy books. This is another contemporary book, but I still just haven't picked it up yet. For some reason, I can't read at Christmas, which makes no sense because that would be the perfect time to actually read something. During that week between Christmas and New Year's, my brain just goes to hell and I cannot read a single thing. So I tried to get over that last year by reading Bear Time by Frederick Backman, and that did not go well because I could not concentrate on this story at all. That said, I know when I pick this up eventually, I'm really going to like it because I was enjoying it while I was reading it. I just didn't have any of that spur to read it. I know once I finally do get around to this, I'm really going to enjoy it. I just have to pick it up again. This is a fiction debut by Melanie Murphy, the YouTuber. She also went to the same university that I went to. She's an Irish author. She is from Dublin. She went to the same university that I did, and I just know once I pick this up, I'm really going to enjoy it because the story sounds really interesting. But I picked this up last year when I was at home to visit my parents, so I think that would have been around July or August. I really want to have this read by that time rolls around again. So it's now April. I want to read this by July. I'm saying it now. I want to have this read by July 31st. Do you have an author, if they release the phone book, you'd buy it? But for me, that's Holly Bourne. This one, I can be a little bit more lenient of because this only came out last week. I have had to read a couple of books from my Alice TBR, and even though this could really have fit in for Charms, it has got a predominantly white cover. I had already got another book picked for Alice, which was Marion Keyes' Grown Ups, which at the moment is holding up my camera. So this is definitely going to be on the very soon to be read list because Holly Bourne is one of my all-time favorite authors. I cannot wait to get around to this. By the next time I do a Physical TBR video, this will not be on it. I promise you that. I like Jodi Picoult. I really like that every book has a kind of a court case situation scenario kind of thing. But this one, I've tried it already. It's The Storyteller. For 70 years, Joseph Weber has been hiding in plain sight. He is a pillar of his local community. He's also a murderer. That sounds really interesting. Why haven't I read this yet? Another book that I borrowed from a friend of mine, but I only borrowed it in like October or so, was 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This would be the first Stephen King book that I will ever read. I've never read any of his other books, despite having seen The Shawshank Redemption countless times, and it's one of my favorite movies. It's got time travel in it, and I feel like sometimes that's done really well. Sometimes that can be left a little bit lacking. I'm intrigued, and I have a feeling I'm going to like this book once I get to reading it. And I think I'm going to have to leave it until around Halloween kind of time, so maybe October. But I do want to have this read within a year of the time that she has given it to me. That's not really too much to ask. Also, it's such a chunky boy. It's huge. It's got, let's see, 734 pages. That book's going to take me forever, but I want to get around to it. Sometimes I buy the entire set of books without having even read the first one. I have bought Wild Girls and the other Wild book that I can't remember the name of right now. But I haven't actually read Wild Like Me yet. And I got this as a gift from my friend Rosie, who was doing a book haul and asked just, did anybody want some of these books? And yet I still haven't read it. But I have so much faith in it that I've bought the other two books in the series. I really liked some of Sophie Gonzalez books. And then I really disliked others. So I'm a little bit anxious about reading these because, again, what if I didn't like them? I bought this one in a charity shop. I bought this one in Essen in the Mailsche bookshop there. And I am very worried that these will be don'ts. This book is everywhere. Everybody is talking about it. I live in Germany at the moment, which has quite the coloured World War II history. And I have visited Auschwitz in 2017-18 with two friends of mine, and it was a really harrowing experience. I still really want to read this book, so I have a feeling that this is a book that I'm going to enjoy. Isn't quite the word, but appreciate reading. When I was sent Marcella Pixley's Ready to Fall, I had been experiencing breast cancer in my family. Couldn't read it and not think about that person. Now that the diagnosis is a couple of years before, and everything is going well for them right now. I have a feeling if I pick it up, it will be slightly easier for me to read it, despite still being a heavy topic and despite still being quite emotionally charged. So maybe the time has finally come. Thanks Pennies is another book that was sent from my Amazon wishlist during the lockdown crisis. It was written by Valerie Loftus, who also went to the same university that I did, just like Melanie Murphy. We met quite more often than I had met Melanie Murphy. We're actually... she was the year above me. We did the exact same degree. She was just the year ahead of me. We were on the same newspaper team together. We had met quite a couple of times, and I really enjoy Valerie as a person, and I think I'm really going to enjoy the book too, because I also really enjoy Pennies. Big man book energy. My mother really, really loves Kathy Kelly. She has 5 or 6 of Kathy's books at home, and I know that during the lockdown she's going to start going back to them. So once I start reading this book, I can send her on another one and she can get that back onto herself as well. I just really need to start reading it. I also bought this book as a holiday book. I bought this one in a little city in Germany called Aachen, which is about 2 hours south of where I'm living right now. I think this one, it's kind of worth the try now because I bought this in 2019, way back in January. My friend told me to buy this recently. It's The Rest of the Story by Sarah Dessen. I don't even remember where I bought it, but my friend was really, really raving about it. And I said, you know what the hell? I have enough books, why not add another one onto the pile? And then I didn't read it. And it sounds like a really interesting book. She said it's a really interesting book, but it's still on my TBR. Why don't you tell me if it's a really interesting book too, and if I should read it right now? Yet another Holly Bourne book. But this is one of her early books. It might even be her debut. I'm a little bit concerned. Every single book of Holly's that I've read, I've loved. And I know that sometimes your first book isn't always your best. Have you read it? Is it good? Tell me. Did you know there are 2 Shakespeare and Company shops? There's one in Paris and there's also one in Vienna in Austria. And that's where I bought this one. It's the Summer of the Sisterhood, which is one of the Secrets of the Traveling Pants books. I have a feeling it's the first book. I really hope it is. Yeah. 4 best friends, 1 pair of jeans, and an important rule. Yeah, it is the first book in the series. I've never read it. I have a feeling it's the kind of book that I should have read when I was a teenager. But I still really love young adult fiction. I still haven't seen the film of this, even though I know that it's really good and it's got some great people in it. So I have a feeling, read the book, watch the film, talk about it forever. Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid is everywhere. Everybody has read it and loved it, except for me. And I buy into hype spectacularly. So when I saw everybody talking about Such a Fun Age, I was like, ooh, damn, I want to read that book too. So I went straight out to my bookshop. I put it straight into my basket. I bought it and then forgot about it. We're down to the final 5. 4. That's even better. I got this book as a birthday present in 2018 from some of the people that I used to work with. They give you a little survey of things that you like as you start working so that they know what to get for you. I said I like books and I like dogs. It's a book. It's got a dog. But I have a feeling as well that this book features a dog that goes missing. It's like a rare viewing of me with my glasses on. So drink it in. It's not going to be every day. The last 3 books, serendipitously, all by Irish authors. The first one is The Outsider by Emily Horwickan. It was sent to me by the publisher. It was published in 2019. It kind of features a holiday, which I feel like would be the best escapism that you can read right now when we are not even allowed to leave the four walls of our apartments. So I have a feeling this is going to be a great book to read while you are sitting by the pool or while you're sitting by the beach. But if you can't get yourself to the pool or to the beach, read a book about it. I've said before, I'll say it again. I'm not a big fan of fantasy, of sci-fi, but I really liked The Sound of Last Ones Left Alive by Sarah Davis Goff. That was also sent to me by the publisher back in 2018-19 kind of time. I really need to start reading books that publishers actually send to me. And this features an island off the coast of Ireland, so like a fictional island off the coast of Ireland where there's a monster that's kind of ravaging the countryside. And the family that are involved in this book are attacked by this monster or bitten or something happens to them that involves the monster. And so we come to the final book. And the final book that I'm going to talk about is actually quite a sad story as to why I haven't read it yet. It's The Gift of Friends by Emma Hannigan. Emma Hannigan was an Irish writer. I think she's written like 15 or 16 books. She passed away from breast cancer in March of 2018. And this is the last book that she ever wrote. And I also have her penultimate book, which is Letters to My Daughter. That's on my Kindle. As I've said, breast cancer has also affected my family. And I'm not ready to read a book with such an emotional attachment to it. I'm not ready to say goodbye to Emma. I'm not ready for that kind of an emotional response that it's going to give to me. So I think this is a book that I really, really need to be in the mood for. So those are all of the books on my physical TBR at the moment. Hopefully with the isolation thing that we've got going on right now, I can take off maybe 10 of them off of my list. Why don't we check in a couple of months' time and see how much I've shortened the TBR list by. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I have new videos up every week. Now get on out of here.